This is the Savvy Investor radio show and podcast. For help with your retirement, schedule a 15-minute phone conversation with the team at ProStatus Financial Advisors today. Just call 866-597-1040 and at thesavvyinvestorradio.com.
And welcome back to the Savvy Investor Radio Show and podcast with the team at ProStatus Financial. Ryan Herbert is here with us today as we go through some of the issues that we talk about: saving for retirement, being in retirement, developing a paycheck for retirement, all of that stuff. And one of the big questions that we all want to know is, how much money do I need? And man, I tell you what, there is a lot of opinion out there. And the numbers sometimes go really crazy. 1.4 million, 1.6, 1.8, 3 million, 5 million. It all depends upon who you are and what you spend. But one of the rules of thumb that seems to be kind of holding up is you'll spend 70 to 80% of the money that you spent during your working years. That one seems to be holding up. But there's some interesting studies out there, and this is a good one here, Ryan, about spending in retirement. It says the person between the ages of 40 and 50, that's when you spend your most money. Your kids are high school, they're coming out of school, it's really expensive then, they're going into college, that's an expensive time. And then in our 50s, we start to back off on some of our spending because we see retirement coming, and we back off and we start to save more. Then we get to retirement. So I wanted to ask you about the spending of your clients in retirement. Do you see people do that thing where they spend a lot in their early years of retirement, or do they kind of ease their way into retirement and try to feel their way through to figure out how much they can spend? How do people approach the whole idea of how much they spend?
You know, I think that most people, most of my clients, the very first year that they are retired, that is probably their most conservative year of what they're spending, because, you know, income is fluctuating, because if you're retiring at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, end of the year, you're really trying to figure it all out. You know, you're trying to figure out what you're doing with your time. You're trying to accomplish all those honeydew things, but because it's your first year without a job, you know, most people, you know, I started working when I was, I think 13 years old was when I got my first job doing, you know, landscaping for my neighbor across the street owned a landscaping company. I was cutting grass for him and, you know, did lifeguarding and serving and all that stuff. You know, most people have been working 40, maybe 50 years of having a paycheck coming in on some regular basis. You know, certainly the last 30 years of your life, you've been working at your job, you know, collecting a paycheck. And it's the first time that they don't have that sense of security, I would say, of knowing that, you know, as long as I go to work, I get my paycheck. As long as I go to work, I get $4,000 a month deposited in my bank account. It is a complete shift of mentality, because now I still have that paycheck coming in, but now it's coming from a different source. It's not relying upon me going to work. It's relying upon my investments doing that work for me. So that very first year is kind of the most conservative year that we see, because people are kind of feeling their way through. And then gradually, you know, years 2, 3, and 4, spending really starts to ramp up, because now they're comfortable of knowing that we have taken those steps. At least, you know, my clients personally, you know, our clients of ProStatus, we have taken those steps to show them, no matter what happens in the stock market, you told us you need $2,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $10,000 a month, whatever that number is. We've taken those steps to make sure that no matter what happens in the stock market, you're going to have that monthly coming in. If the stock market's up 20%, you have the money coming in. Stock market's down 20%, you have that money coming in. So now they know, I have this reliable income coming in. I don't have to worry about pinching my pennies, watching what I'm spending. They start to do the bucket list items. They start to do that honey-do list. You know, most people start with, all right, you know, we're going to start doing improvements to our house that we've been putting off because we want to be comfortable. We're spending more time at home. I want to have the kitchen the way I want it to be. I want to have the bathroom the way that I want it to be. You know, I want to start traveling. I want to take that trip to Italy. And a lot of my clients, funny enough, you know, they come into my office and they see the pictures I have on the wall. And every year my wife likes to plan a lot of vacations. She likes to plan a lot of trips, and begrudgingly we go on these trips. And I always joke with my wife of, okay, what day did you plan to have the photographer there And so we always take these family pictures on vacation, and I change the pictures out once or twice a year. And the clients are always, I saw that trip to Italy you did. We saw that trip you guys went to Paris. We saw, the most recent one was we went to Finland in January to see the Northern Lights. And they always think that keys up. I've always wanted to go here. I've always wanted to do this. I want to start spending money. I want to start enjoying my money by doing that traveling. And that normally happens those first, like I said, normally starts in year 2 and lasts about the first 10 years of retirement, where it's kind of your going years, where you're out doing those fun things in retirement. You're doing the things you've always dreamed of, the honey-do list, the round to it, the bucket list. That's really kind of where the bulk of my clients start spending more money than they thought they would, because, Ryan, I want to spend $8,000 a month considering all my sources of income. But, that covers all of my needs. That covers, the lifestyle that we want. But I want an extra 10 grand to take that trip to Italy. I want an extra 10 grand, to do the cross country RV trip, whatever it happens to be. That's really kind of where they're spending money. And because we've put that plan in place of saying that we have that regular income coming in that's covering those needs, that's covering your normal lifestyle, because we've taken the time to create that financial plan, to create those income streams, that enables them to go out and spend the money and live the life that they really want those first couple years of retirement. And it's all because they took the time to sit down and go over that plan by visiting us on the website at thesavvyinvestorradio.com. It's thesavvyinvestorradio.com. You go to the website, right at the top of the page, it says schedule my call. You're looking at your calendar and our calendar in real time and set up the time that really works best for you. But, they took that time, and we've created a plan that accounts for the way spending changes in retirement. And I've talked about how those first 10 years of retirement is when you normally spend the most amount of money. And that normally it's between age 60 and 75, really kind of depending on when you retire. If you retire a little bit later, but you're normally active for those first 10 years, because that's when you're doing those things. Then, you get to your early to mid 70s, and things really start to kind of slow down. Spending kind of plateaus and flattens off, because we've done a lot of the travel that we've wanted to do. We've done the home improvements. If you're doing that RV trip across the country, you're kind of tired of driving. You're staying home. You're more in a routine. You're focusing on your hobbies a little bit more, the things that you're doing to fill your time, and spending really kind of flattens off. And you're spending that number that you've asked for. Ryan, we want to be able to spend $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month. Normally spending stays right around there for about the next 10, maybe 12 years, from, 75 until 85, early to mid 80s. And then spending really kind of just falls off a cliff, because now you've done all those things you've wanted to. You've been enjoying your retirement, but now you're tired. You're spending less time outside doing things. You're spending more time. Nap time honestly becomes a bigger part of your life. So spending really kind of falls off for the next 5 to 8 years until you hit your 90s. Then spending for everybody really starts to ramp back up, because now, medical expenses are kind of a thing that are popping up. You have ailments that are bothering you, that you want to get fixed. If you're unfortunate in the aspect that you have to go into some type of skilled care or nursing home care, the cost of that is very, very, very expensive. And so the last couple of years of retirement is when you spend, an enormous amount of money on medical care. But, you want to have a plan that accounts for those changes in how your spending goes in retirement. I very, very often I have people come in, and one of the things that makes us different is that I ask for a lot of information from you before you come into the office. I want to look at your tax returns. I want to look at your account statements. I want to look at your estate plan. And most importantly, if you've been working with a financial advisor or you've been doing it yourself, I want to see what your retirement plan looks like. And unfortunately, the majority of retirement plans that I look at in retirement, it has spending as this linear number, meaning the day I retire, I'm going to spend $6,000 a month. And then I'm going to spend $6,000 a month every single year, every single month, from the day I retire at 65 all the way out until I die at whatever age that is. Obviously, it's adjusted for inflation. but it's this straight line. And I always go into people, I look at that number and I say, okay, $6,000 a month, that's great. What do you want to do in retirement? Well, we want to do this. We want to travel. We want to do that. I said, okay, so you do realize that your plan that you have set up is really just accounting for you spending the same number every year. It's not allowing you the flexibility to go out and enjoy retirement. You did not save. You did not work and save money and worry about the stock market to sit at home and pinch pennies and think about, do I have enough money? Am I going to outlive my money, or will my money outlive me? You've taken the time to create this nest egg, to think about what retirement looks like for you. You really owe it to yourself to have a plan that makes sure, most importantly, that you are not going to outlive your money, but also gives you the flexibility to enjoy your retirement, enjoy your life to the fullest, because that's what you worked all your life for, to get to retirement. Congratulations, you've made it. Now, what does that plan look like for you? Are you going to be enjoying it the way you want it to be? Or are you going to be sitting at home worried about, is the stock market up or is the stock market down? It all really is reliant upon you having a secure financial plan that starts by giving us a call at 866-597-1040, 866-597-1040. Or you can visit us on our website at thesavvyinvestorradio.com. That's thesavvyinvestorradio.com. Right there at the top of that website, there's a button that says schedule my call. You're doing it without ever having to pick up the phone. That's thesavvyinvestorradio.com.
Yeah, one of the things in the research that you see over and over again is people that have an income plan, people that have a spending plan, people that have a financial retirement plan. They live more confidently in retirement because they have what Ryan says is that $6,000 a month gets filled up every month. And it's not determined on a market that's doing well or hurting you as a market that's doing poorly. We would love to have that opportunity to talk to you about it. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website, 866-597-1040, as Ryan has said. And you can also use our website, which is really easy, thesavvyinvestorradio.com. There's a button there that says schedule a call. That call is 15 minutes. And Ryan, maybe just tell us just a little bit about that call. It's just a series of questions basically saying, why did you call? What's got you worried? And how can we help? Tell me a little bit about that call.
I mean, it's you're talking with Dawn or Nilafar, members of my team, and we're really trying to find out what is it that's truly prompting the call today. Is it, I really want to find out money about, saving money on taxes. I want to find out making sure my estate plan is going to happen the way I want it to be. I want to make sure that I'm not taking on too much risk. I want to make sure that I'm taking on enough risk to accomplish my goal. So that first phone call, really 10 to 15 minutes, just kind of an information gathering just us gathering the information about you so we know exactly what you're looking for. Because the most important thing, I think, is that, you're going to take time out of your schedule. You're either going to have to take time off work or, take time out of your day to come into our office at the end of, ultimately, and sit down with myself or a member of our team for, about 45 minutes to an hour. And we want to make sure that we are going to make the best use of your time and answer your questions very, very specifically. Far too often, I think that you get generic advice based on, people in your situation, people of your age, people with your assets. Here's about what we do. Here's some ideas. Here's some thoughts of, here's the strategies that we use. Here's a little bit about us. But really, I want to make sure that you are sitting down with, getting the information that you're really, really looking for. You want to know, can I retire with $6,000 a month? Can I have an extra 10 grand a year for vacations? I want to have all that information ahead of time so that when we sit down, we're taking the best use of your time. So when you leave my office, you have something, I got the answers to my specific questions, and they're not just generic. It's very specific of here's exactly the steps that I need to take to make retirement work for me. It's the exact steps that I need to take to make sure that my retirement plan is not that I'm not going to outlive my retirement plan. I'm going to do it in the most tax efficient manner possible. That's, that really is why we take that time ahead of time to figure out specifically what it is that you're looking for.
Well, give us a call. You're listening to this show, so you're curious about what ProStatus is all about. You're also worried a little bit about what your retirement is going to look like. Let's put it all together and let's give you a real good look at what is there right now and how we may be able to help. 866-597-1040. You can use that number, 866-597-1040, or use our website as well, thesavvyinvestorradio.com. Just spell it all out. There's 2 V's in Savvy, thesavvyinvestorradio.com. And then there's a button there that says get started and or schedule a call. And you'll be able to start right there and get that 15-minute call on a calendar. Ryan, that is all the time that we have on this particular segment. I'll give you the last word on this one.
This is Ryan Herbert. Thank you so much for listening to the Savvy Investor Radio Show and podcast, and we will see you, the Savvy Investor, next week.
Advisory services offered through ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, a registered investment advisor. Insurance licensed in Maryland. ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if ProStatus Financial Advisors Group is licensed in your state, please call 410-863-1040. ProStatus Group, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through representatives of ProStatus Financial Advisors Group.